Yeah.
Hey, how's it going everyone? This is the Anime Man, and welcome to another long-awaited episode of Joey's seasonal anime roundup. Now kids, put down your torches and pitchforks, I hear you loud and clear. And I'm so sorry I was unable to make a summer 2016 seasonal roundup. Look, I won't make excuses, I was lazy, I had shit to do, a life to live. Who am I kidding, I shit on anime for a living. An evaluation of self-worth aside, for those of you who are new to this is a series where at the end of each season, I look back at some of the series I watched and do short, insightful reviews and analysis on each one of them. And since I missed the season of summer, and to give back to you guys for an amazing fucking year of love and support, here is my double seasonal roundup of the summer and fall season of 2016. Be warned, there may be some spoilers ahead as they will be unavoidable to review and analyze, so only continue if you've watched your anime or you don't have any intentions of watching anything at all. Because as you're about to see in this video, the second half of 2016 wasn't exactly the most impressive period of modern anime we've seen yet. Also be warned that whatever I say in this video is merely my opinion and personal thoughts, so if you have a strong case of the fuck yous towards what I say about your favorite or least favorite waifu, then feel free to let me know in the comments below. But in any case, let's get this shit show on the road. ReZero. Oh yes, let's begin with this show, aka Best Anime 20XX, because this blue head chick, I forgot her name, Ramona, yeah, she's best girl. I love Amelia, funny joke. Okay, for real though, let me be serious for just a second and be blunt with you all. I fucking love this anime. Yuri likes a popular mainstream anime? What? If it's genuinely a well-written and entertaining anime like ReZero, then yes, I like it. Of course, that's not to say this series had any flaws, predominantly in its first and last few episodes. Everything between episodes 4 to 21 were fucking brilliant. Mwah, like sprinkles on a cake. But the sprinkles are dead bits of every character in this show. Ugh. First of all, the first 3 episodes, with this bitch, and this guy, and these faggots, to me it just felt like this first arc was there to serve 3 purposes. 1, setting up the plot concept of Subaru going back in time every time he dies. 2, create the connection between Subaru and Amelia. And 3, create a traumatic situation that will stop Subaru's character from developing, because he wasn't already an annoying character. The problem is they could have easily done all of that from the second arc, because that's exactly what the second arc did. And better, because it had these guys in it. Especially her. She's my waifu. Fuck you all. And the last 4 to 5 episodes were kind of the same thing. It went nowhere, and when it did, it was anticlimactic and felt uneventful and kind of corny. And can we all just talk about Subaru for just a second? Because it seems a lot of people thought he was a dumb, whiny character. And while, yes, that may be true, it didn't make him a necessarily bad character. In fact, because he was a whiny, traumatized little bitch, I felt I could relate to his character more. He was an extremely realistic and human character in an otherwise inhumane setting and set of characters. I just wish they expanded some of the more interesting side characters as well, like Roswell and Beatrice, especially Beatrice. For now, I'm just going to enjoy all the endless amounts of Rem Dojins and, oh, Jesus Christ, that's a lot. Okay, I'll see you soon. Amaama to Inazuma. This show is so damn fucking-y. Seeing the fabled slice of life genre slapped all over this bitch, I went into this series with the lowest of expectations. Not only was it a slice of life, but it was also a cooking anime, and I can't relate to that shit. I can hardly make a decent slice of toast. But my god, was this show charming as hell. The characters, the relationships, the dynamics, the voice acting, everything was just tugging at my heartstrings with every second. And oh my god, can I just stress how much Tsumugi is fucking daughter goals. Joey, she's like 5. There's no way a 5-year-old can act like her. And yes, while that may be true, it's not exactly an impossible character to imagine. The thing is, there are many characteristics in Tsumugi, and in fact, all the characters of the show that add a very realistic and relatable factor to them. And those kinds of characteristics in a slice of life anime is like the cherry on the cake. Now let me ask you, are you below the age of 18? Are you what society calls a child? Then let me just stop you right there, because there's a good chance you might not necessarily enjoy this anime. Why? Because the main character is a father. A father who grows off of her daughter growing up after the loss of her mother at a young age. So if you don't look at this anime in the eyes of the father or relate to the father's storyteller's point of view, then this show is probably gonna be boring for you. But if you're into food or just overall moe goodness and heartwarming drama and slice of life, then you'll probably end up really enjoying this, so why not give it a shot? 91 Days. I talked about a little series called Joker Game a few seasons ago, and how it was a fantastic depiction of spies, gangsters, and modern history seen through the eyes of those characters. And well, 91 Days is another series that is much like that, but in all honesty, I adore this series far more. Why? Because it's way more realistic. All the characters, settings, and progression that happen are things that could honestly happen in real life. In fact, the show is based in America during the Prohibition era, coupled with mafias and the illegal business and consumption of alcohol. All things that happened in real life. But 91 Days is more than a gangster anime, it's a brilliant story of revenge. While its premise isn't exactly the most unique thing ever, what makes it unique is the way the plot is progressed and how that relates to certain characters. Not only are there a slew of plot twists starting from as early as the second episode, but every move that each character makes is planned out in advance. It's like watching 10 people all trying to play chess at the same time. And that's another strong point about this series. Its end goal is clear as day, right from the beginning and through the plot twists and subplots of many interweaving characters. It follows through with its plot motive right up until the end without going off of too many giant tangents like a lot of other shows tend to do. I don't know, I might just have a special bias towards series like this, as it has a lot of similarities to films like Pulp Fiction and Goodfellas, which are easily among my favorite films of all time. Oh, and if you're one of those plebs who compared this show to series like Bacano and deemed it as a boring and uneventful ripoff, well, then that's kinda your fault. That's like comparing Vegemite to Nutella because they're both black spreads. I'm just saying, dude, it's not my fault if you get the Vegemite. What am I saying? I love Vegemite. Fuck you. New game. This is a show I like to label under a particular genre known as a CGDCT anime. For those of you who don't know, that stands for cute girls doing cute things, because that's exactly what all this show ever is. Now, I don't care how much you think the characters are moe AF, or that when you grow up you want to work in a game dev firm that's just as kawaii and cool as the one depicted in the show, but I'm here to open your goddamn eyes. To me, this show was nothing more than a Lucky Star ripoff that had the potentials of being more of a shit or buckle ripoff, using the concept of CGDCT in nerdy situations like developing games and adding an adult side to characters and pinpointing the theming of growing up in society was unfortunately very loosely strung out in this series. Like, sometimes I would watch some of the characters get into all sorts of quirky office shenanigans and be like, hey, remember the game dev part of this whole equation? That's like if Shirobako dedicated 3 episodes to actually making anime and the other 20 something episodes was just Emmy doing her dance. Actually, scratch that. That actually sounds fucking awesome. And look, it's not that I'm so old and jaded now that I don't enjoy a bunch of moe blobs doing cutesy and moe things in their natural environment. To this day, I still love rewatching particular scenes from series like Shirobako, Lucky Star, and K-On! Just to name a few series that actually did the CGDCT genre justice. The biggest difference between this show and, say for example, Lucky Star was that these characters are unique and interesting, not only in the sense of comedic style, but also as a character in itself. Meanwhile, these characters are nothing more than cardboard cutouts from other shows mashed together into this weak-ass setting that is so clearly doing its best to lure the Watamode crowd of unconditional awkwardness, while still trying to make this show cute and coming of age like. New game, more like new anime. Next! Mob Psycho 100. Now, if there's one thing I can say about this anime, it's that I loved it. It just goes to show that you don't need the prettiest characters or animation to make a good fucking anime. All you need is an interesting bunch of unique and compelling characters to drive a plot motive through an interesting tale of events. While many will say that the hype of OPM killed the series, I'll have to strongly disagree. I found this show just as enjoyable as One Punch Man, if not more, thanks to its more solid theming of rebellion, societal norms, and human values it presented. While both shows take on a very satirical twist in the themes they cover, Mob Psycho 100 manages to deliver themes in a really solid and cleverly interwoven way. At first, you watch all these characters with different backstories, different motives, different ways of thinking, and wanting to change themselves through a bunch of unseemingly separate events simultaneously. Almost as if the show is going off on a bunch of random tangents like an ADHD kid at a public debate. But by around the second half, the anime manages to interweave not only this solid plot full of different motives, but also manages to build meaningful development in each character. And without spoiling anything, while the ending took a few hits from a lot of fans saying it was anticlimactic, I thought it was a perfect way to end such a satirical anime that never took itself too seriously. I just love the meta message this show was trying to tell through its sarcasm, and honestly, there was very little to complain about with this anime. Rewrite. When I saw the word key written all over this anime, I got an instant boner. Oh, fuck yeah. Give me some of that sweet, sweet visual novel action. Alright, let's go. I'm ready to embark on this romantic comedy-based human drama. Oh my fucking god! Oh, what is happening? How could you do this to me, Key? I love you so much! Alright, in all seriousness, this is easily one of the worst Key Studios-based anime to date, for more than the obvious reasons. You know, like the obvious continuity errors right from the first fucking episode, along with one of the most what the fuck turn of events that makes The Sixth Sense look like the works of an amateur art student with a crack addiction. Shamalama Ding Dong flipped this fucking ding dong after he saw Rewrite. Like if the terrible plot progression, lazy motives, cliche as fuck characters, and just utterly unrealistic character dynamics wasn't enough to make you go, excuse me? The second half of this anime was just a clusterfuck of cheap shock factor and unexplained character and plot progression that made me want to go find a ribbon-wielding lolly myself to strangle myself to fucking death with. And here's the biggest problem with Rewrite. It's not a Maeda Jun work. For those of you who don't know, Maeda Jun is known as one of the lead writers and composers of some of Key Studios' best works, including Air, Little Busters, and the ever-famous Clannad series, as well as other independent works like Angel Beats and Charlotte. This could explain the extreme jump in overall genre and tone of Rewrite compared to this shit. Yeah, remember this cute piece of innocence? And why, of all studios, did Studio 8-Bit have to look after this? Let them make their average light novel adaptations, not a Key Studios work. Granted, the story and characters were confusing and unlikable as fuck by themselves, but the mix of three along with subpar 2D animation doesn't quite live up to the Cure Annie magic of the past now, does it? What the hell am I even saying? Not even the Cure Annie polish can save this shit from its fucking depressing nihilistic demise and its fucking obvious branding throughout the entire show. Seriously, Key? Is this why you made your main waifu be a coffee lover? To sell your fucking logo on your worst show to date? If I were to say any positives about this show, it's the music, especially the beautiful second opening and some of the quieter piano tracks, which, whoa, surprise, were written by Maeda Jun. Please come back to the anime world, we need you right now, man. Orange. Having seen the live action movie based off the series prior to watching this anime, I already had a good understanding of what I was going into. And maybe it's because I knew exactly what I was going into that I wasn't even remotely pleased at watching this overdramatic piece of shit. Yes, I get that it's based off a shoujo manga and that these series are usually nothing more than the culminations of girls who regretted their high school lives. But Orange takes this notion to an unbelievably mediocre degree. First of all, is it just me or does this anime look like absolute trash? I don't usually judge an anime for its art, but considering the backgrounds and overall aesthetics are fairly pretty, the characters look like the cast from a subpar DeviantArt fanfic. What makes it worse is that not only do the characters look like shit, but they also have jack shit personalities. Cookie cutter tropes with bland character designs don't exactly make up for an interesting slice of life now, do they? And look, as much as I love the sound of Hanazawa Kana's voice, if 60% of her dialogue is or and she has to stutter for 20 seconds before saying each line, then you're doing a really good job of driving me to fucking insanity. Oh, also, can I just say that the whole sci-fi aspect of the show is cleaned up in a matter of minutes by, oh, I don't know, a random black hole in the middle of the Pacific fucking Ocean? I wish I was making that up right now. With that said, they certainly nailed the theming to this show, about young love, growing up, and living life to the fullest. Carpe diem, Robin! But when the character and plot development are kinda shoehorned into the over-dramatized subplots, it's kinda hard to relate to these characters at the molecular level the show wants you to. To think a shoujo anime with a quote-unquote time travel twist would be this uninteresting really blew me away. Orange, you glad you didn't waste your time with this show? ReLIFE. Look, I'm gonna come clean with this show right from the bat in saying that I was nothing but disappointed in this show. And no, not because it was necessarily terrible, but rather because it had so much potential to be a much better show. It's like seeing Michael Jordan doing baseball. Like, really, bro? The comedic and lighthearted school slice of life elements and its charming character design set the show up in a rather positive light near the first few episodes. And while the premise wasn't exactly the most unique thing we've ever seen, what made this show cool was the character dynamics it had. Or should I say, could have had. The biggest problem with ReLIFE was its mistake in character focus. The show managed to gloss over the character dynamics, development, and backstory of some of the most interesting characters in the show, like Chizuru, Yoake, and Ang, who were essentially pulling the overall plot and theming in the backgrounds. But no, instead, the show decided to focus on characters like Karyu and Tama, or as I like to call them, melodrama queen and struggling teenager 2.0. Like, they were just boring characters overall. And while they were subject to all this forced drama and subplots, I honestly couldn't give two shits about them. Hey, remember the main character? Because apparently the show seemed to at some parts. How come he didn't get more screen time? Why wasn't his subplot expanded more than it was? Why wasn't him and Chizuru, who was the perfect character to mirror his subplots and development off of, explored more? Why was York and Un's backstory not explored more? Why the fuck should I care about these boring ass characters?
It's all about that high school life, bro! The struggle is real, am I right, audience?
And while the small glimpses of romance near the final episode were nice, the show never really decided to tie the loose strings, which gives me hope for a season 2 that I'm hoping won't make the same mistakes as this season. If not, then well, fuck this show. Next. Yuri on Ice. Oh yes, now this is the show that everyone and their fucking mothers were watching this season. So being a slave to internet trends, I decided to sit down and see what the hubbub was all about. And well, let me just say this show certainly looked good. Having known that Studio Mappa went out of the way to base the figure skating scenes to real figure skating footage and choreography, I can see how much dedication and love went into that aspect of the show. But honestly, that's about it. You know how YouTube and other online news outlets have had problems with clickbait and misleading audiences into thinking they're gonna get something awesome? Well, suffice it to say, Yuri on Ice is the anime equivalent of that. It quenches the thirst of yaoi fangirls and figure skating enthusiasts who want some of that sweet, sweet sword fighting action. But if you're neither one of these target audiences, then this show is pretty fucking bad. And there goes all my female viewers. Who's up for a sausage fest? Well, Yuri on Ice is certainly up for it because that's all this fucking show is. And look, it's not that I'm not into figure skating or that I'm so homophobic that I can't stand two guys kissing each other in a homoerotic subtext that covers its bullshit with its sports genre. The problem is that this show didn't even manage to do any of this correctly. From the first episode, I could tell this show wasn't going to show any level of quality whatsoever. Sloppy pacing, rushed character progression, and if you label any of its quote-unquote comedy as funny, then you might as well label Free as a brilliant story. Because Yuri on Ice took the concept of all of that, replaced it with shoehorn homoerotic tension, solving all the problems in the world. What's that? You have a nervous breakdown because you're pressured to win this match? Have a hug from behind. Fuck antidepressant drugs. Gay love solves all. If I haven't pissed you off enough at this point, then let me top it off with an analogy. Yuri on Ice is like watching a 5-year-old eat a McDonald's hamburger for the first time. To the kid, that hamburger is probably the most satisfying, tasty thing he's ever had. But as that kid grows up, he'll realize that there was a steakhouse around the corner that's incomparably better and higher quality. It's boring, it's cliche, and the only way I can enjoy this show is if I were a yaoi fangirl pleb who'll watch anything with half-naked Russian bishies going to town on idiots on skates. All hail shitty Yahi Sports! Next! Saiki Kusuo no Psi-nan. Can I just ask, why is nobody talking about this show? Is it because it's another 5-minute per episode show that goes for, Jesus Christ, 120 episodes? Now that's something we don't see in modern anime anymore. And here's something else we don't see in modern anime, or rather, from the past couple of seasons of modern anime. A good fucking anime. Now this is just me, but I love self-aware comedy anime. Series like Sakamoto desu ga, Gintama, and Lucky Star are beyond some of my favorite comedy anime. While the show doesn't boast the most amazing animation or art, it does boast a bunch of hilarious dialogue, which is the core of its comedy thanks to the unique comedic style of author Aso Shuichi, who I've been a big fan of ever since his early work in manga series like Boku to Watashi no Yushagaku. This show doesn't have any kind of story or development, but its episodic structure leaves room for some really interesting character dynamics, and thus is able to build some interesting and unique comedy, which is genuinely hilarious to watch and listen to. And I think that's another brilliant thing about this show, its characters. While looking at it from the surface, every character in this show is cliche as fuck. You've got your dumb-headed delinquent, class Madonna everyone has a boner for, the hot-headed gym teacher, the chunibyo, and while you might think these obvious archetypes might make for some uninteresting and boring characters, it's actually quite the opposite. The show manages to create interesting and unique development and relations between each of the characters, while never forgetting to look for an opportunity to show in that sweet biting joke. If you're more into visual comedy, this might not exactly be your cup of tea because the show, again, is quite dialogue heavy. But if you are into witty and self-aware comedy shows, Saiki Kusuo no Psi-nan is the perfect anime for you. Drifters. Okay, so let me get this straight. One man goes against an entire army, gets stabbed 700 times, somehow manages to stay alive because fuck science, entire army runs away. The first thing I noticed about this show that I really liked was the art and animation style. It's very reminiscent of shows like Hellsing, which aim to have a super serious yet underground cynical take on characters and humor. And as much as I don't like to compare this show to Hellsing, whether you're a fan of shows like Hellsing is going to determine whether you're going to enjoy this show too. While its premise, characters and setting are all different, I find it has a very similar soul to that of Hellsing. Hard action, blood, gore, the occasional comic relief, and the whole undertone of racial and political tension between good and evil really sets Drifters in stone as a Hellsing ripoff for a lot of people. Regardless, I still quite enjoyed this show. I did find, however, that there were many points where there was just too much unnecessary dialogue between characters. Like, who cares? Just fight! That's what this show is all about! Also, why bother making every other character in this show speak gibberish for the first 4 episodes, while these 2 characters who are originally from a non-Japanese speaking country are speaking it fluently with no explanation somehow. Logic! By the way, can I just point out the huge referential callbacks to historical figures in this show? To grossly oversimplify things, this show is just a retelling of Hitler versus the Jews. I don't know, I find that concept so hilarious, yet so fucking cool. However, I do appreciate the historical strategy and lore behind each character, which will hopefully be further reinforced in the upcoming 2nd season, which I am actually quite keen for. Occultic 9. It wasn't until after I finished that I saw why there were so many mixed reviews about this show. Some calling it a fantastic and unique take on the supernatural mystery genre, while others labeling it as an unorganized mess of shit that made no sense whatsoever. And well, I personally think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I'm usually quite nervous whenever I watch anything done by A1 Studios, as they can make some serious shit but can sometimes strike serious gold. And well, in terms of the studio's work, I think they struck some awesome gold with this show. The directing, editing, and sound design is just amazing. I can't stress that enough. Mainly 2 things director Ishiguro Kyohei nailed when deciding to direct this supernatural mystery genre were the large uses of the Dutch tilt, a shot in filmmaking that portrays a sense of psychological uneasiness and tension in the characters shown in the shot, and fast cuts of subliminal frames that glimpse at important internal imagery to show how the character is conceiving its reality. Couple that with some seamless transitions and an awesome soundtrack, and you have one unique and interesting series. I know I might sound like a nerd talking about shot composition in an anime, but fuck you. This shit gets my film nerdist penis so rock hard. However, the biggest problem I could see with this show was its pacing. It was just, how should I say it? A little too fast? So fast, in fact, that the first episode squeezed 400 pages worth of the original novel into itself. So many, including myself, will critique this show for not spending enough time exploring the characters we're following. Because I don't know about you, it wasn't until around episode 6 or 7 that I finally started to understand what any of the characters were like as people. And until that point, there were just many instances where I was just getting fucking pissed at how some of these characters were talking and acting. But that might have been intentional, considering it's a mystery series that deals with how the occult and humanity may as well be one and the same at a deeper, more psychological level. But minus the few plot holes and inconsistent narrative, Occultic 9 is definitely an interesting and uniquely presented show you should give a quick go. Dropped! Masou Gakuen HxH. Why did I bother with this piece of shit? I thought the concept of powering up seen in shows like Seikon the Quasar with ridiculous amounts of distasteful fan service and ecchi. Until this series came along. Masou Gakuen HxH is not only an insult to my intelligence in terms of animation, characters, and story, but it has one of the most retarded concepts of any known ecchi anime ever. Girls need some kind of power to power up. How do they do it? Get felt up by the protagonist, because why the fuck not? I don't mind fan service and ecchi, and if I get to watch anime characters getting kinky with each other in more ways than one, then hey, I'll happily take it. But watching Masou Gakuen HxH was like watching a hentai that took itself way too seriously with its story and then dropped the ball super hard when it came to the sex scenes. Like, who gives a shit about the story? I want to see you guys fucking. But if you're gonna give us this pussy shit which looks like it was written by the 40-year-old version, then what is even the point anymore? All the characters were generic, the plot was boring, the animation is god-awful for a 2016 anime. Where have you been? And the one factor they decided to snipe into our prepubescent faces wasn't even done in a nice, unique way. Oh wow, girls glowing after they get half raped by a clueless protagonist? Ain't that some sexy ass shit? How am I supposed to get a boner when even the main waifus, who are supposed to be the most visually appealing things on this show, are more boring and featureless than a fucking brick wall? Seriously, we need to stop seeing these kinds of shows. They're getting redundant, they're getting boring, and I want them out of my face. Next! Dropped! AniTore XX. I mean... really, bro? Dropped! Taboo Tattoo. This show is reminiscent to having a grilled cheese sandwich for lunch. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible. It's just so incredibly average. Average art, average animation, average music, average story, average characters, like... I don't know what to say. I honestly expected a little bit more from a concept which sounded cool on initial thought, but the way it was presented and explored was just so average. And in all honesty, I dropped it because it was just so average. Like, I physically wasn't enjoying the fact that this show was mediocre at best. And because I couldn't even write home about it, it's shit. Even this review was mediocre. Fuck. Dropped. Keijo. This show is just the perfect concoction of ridiculous and hilariously stupid. I mean, when a series has a concept this fucking ridiculous and bizarre, you can't help but just chuckle slightly. But when you actually see this shit with your very own eyes, you start to wonder about the mental state of the people who made it. I mean, I think I would have really enjoyed this show if it was a self-aware comedy that joked around with its absolutely stupid ass concept of, I don't know, girls bashing each other with their Latino asses and tits for money. Man, gambling has taken a dark turn. But it doesn't. The show takes itself more seriously than this guy. It's over-exaggerated action, technical terms which are nothing more than a bunch of terribly written puns. And if you enjoy this anime, you're either a horny 12-year-old or you're just really into action-packed butt slapping. In my opinion, to call this show a sports anime is nothing more than an insult. There seems to be a trend this year of taking weird-ass quote-unquote sports and trying to turn them into anime, but to little to no success. And Keijo is just another one of those series that will be thrown onto the pile of, oh yeah, that series from this year. Overall, this show is dumb. It's dumb entertainment, and if you're into dumb entertainment, then you'll probably enjoy this show. I, for one, did not. Rest in peace, anime fan service. And well, there you have it. That was the double seasonal roundup of the summer and fall season of 2016. If you made it this far in this long ass video, then congratulations, because overall, these seasons were lame as fuck. I thought the first half of 2016 was looking grim, but I guess the Grim Reaper just came and took a shit on the grass to make the rest of the year pretty mediocre as well. But in any case, I hope you guys enjoyed this double seasonal roundup. I won't be doing it again because Jesus Christ, you know how long it took me to make this video. Of course, I didn't have all the time in the world to watch every single series from either season. So if I did miss out on a series that you think I should go back and check out, then let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to check out a more detailed review on anime during the first half of 2016, then check out my seasonal roundups of winter and spring 2016 by checking the links in the description below. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. As always, like